My name is Daniel Arthurton, and I live here at Cades Bay on the farm. It's Nevis Hydro Gardens. From I was a child, I saw agricultural things about me. My father was the main waterman for the island of Nevis, and we had 14 acres over at the Camp Spring catchment area, and he planted like considerable biodiversity in terms of fruits, particularly fruit trees, and we did some vegetable crops as well. And I grew up with my grandmother, Florence William, of dear memory, and she was from Webb's Ground in Gingerland, and so she worked as a worker on the estates, New River Estate, where she planted, weeded, and cleaned out cotton. So I was living with her from I was a child until I was about 10 years when I came to town to get the benefit of education opportunities. So also on my mother's side of the family, I'm an Amri. My grandfather, Nick Amri, was the person that is being credited, my great-grandfather. My grandfather was Hilton Amri, and they were credited for the Amri Poly. They were the ones who brought the Amri Poly around and so forth. And then, my uncle, Willie Amri, he was a farmer, and also Charlie Kep Busu. They were all farmers. They came from farming, and so I grew up, I think I just imbibed agriculture, and I gave considerable thought to it and felt that whatever I do, I ultimately will have something to do with agriculture. My father with the water and agriculture, and my grandmother, and so it just became natural progression. One of the things that I thought that would help me, because I didn't see many persons, and I looked at the time and I realized the persons who were in agriculture were Earl Jeffers, Mr. Evan Nisbet Sr., Johnny Clark, and these were all people who were over 50 years of age. And I usually think strategically, and I thought, well, if I get into this thing, this is going to be a real good opportunity for me to think the things that I'm thinking, think of how I can make a positive change and impact agriculture. And so that was basically where I think the first thoughts of agriculture nested themselves in my mind. Once I left school, and that was one of the areas that was available, I tried to get into agriculture. At that time, it was not easy to get into the agriculture department just like that. So I took the opportunity to go to St. Kitts. I started as a teacher and went into public health, and then got my appointment because I had the subjects. And then once you're already appointed, it's easier to get a transfer. But what happened is that while I was in St. Kitts, I was able to get an opportunity, a scholarship, to go to the Guyana School of Agriculture. And so I left St. Kitts, went to the Guyana School of Agriculture, so there was ample time for the transfer to be effected. So when I returned from Guyana, I turned out to work in Nevis. So I got the scholarship in St. Kitts and came out in 1982. I spent 2 years at the Guyana School of Agriculture, where, I ended up with, one of the best grades for my batchmate, and so I came home to Nevis. And at that time, when you go, you would come back and work for 4 years. And so I stayed from 82 to 86. And then, interestingly, as soon as my bond was finished in 86, I left and went to the United States to do additional studies. I was, however, given an opportunity through a competition by the International Institute of Education in 1985 to go with about 8 other people from across the Caribbean to California, Fresno State University in California, for a period of 12 weeks to look at all aspects of agriculture. That was a very important turning point in terms of reinforcement after my good education in Guyana, because Guyana really cemented in my mind that, you know, as Comrade Forbes Linden Samson Burnham used to say, produce or perish, you know, and that was always something that I took from then, and it has been something that is always lingering, you know, in the background in my mind. If you don't produce, you will perish. The Nevis Hydro Gardens was located on 7,200 square feet of land on top of the farm that my father had. So my input was into Nevis Hydro Gardens was the land, the clearing, and you know, taking care of the lease arrangement with the Housing and Land Development Corporation. There were Lloyd Williams, there was Mr. Don Mills. Don Mills had passed on a couple of years ago, and then there was a Hawley. But the guy who came to assist us with the establishment was a one named Murray Archer, and he was mute. So he came from Central Station, and he came here, and we got started. And we started production on that small area in January 1998, Nevis Hydro Garden. So Nevis Hydro Garden is a part of the DA farm, Daniel Arthurton farm. And so fast forward through time, you know, we had some changes in the composition of Nevis Hydro Gardens, and I took it over fully. And then what happened is I have now extended the farming operation to a more sustainable farm operation where I do water harvesting. Right next to the entry point, there are about 2,050 gallons of harvested water in containers. Then the area by the hydroponics, above another 800 gallons of harvested rainwater. And it's something I continue to do. I do controlled atmospheres, like, you know, shade house. I do innovations through use of solar. Everything on the farm is run on solar. I have 10 kilowatt hours of solar plant, and so I use solar for providing energy. As you walk through the farm, you will see a significant amount of drip irrigation throughout the whole matrix of the farm. I've invested in that over the years. I think that what I do here on this farm is a sustainable small farm, because it takes into account all of those factors that one would pay attention to if you are, one, going to be successful, and if you're going to sustain your family in the first instance, and 3, if you're going to be able to support and sustain food security. I went to America in 1986 when my bond was finished, and I stayed there until 1991, and I did a bachelor's degree in agricultural economics and a master's degree in resources economics and management. And so when I returned in 1991, I decided that I would be a transformer, and so I started the process of doing that. But I would have done a lot of work in my 4 years that I was the extension officer. When I came back in 1980, I was placed to manage Prospect Estate. And so in 1980, when I managed Prospect Estate, at about 22, 23 years of age, I had a crew of maybe, well, over 30 persons, because they were all the persons who were working at Prospect Estate, and we had the whole estate in cotton and vegetable production. And then we had low ground, which was another area. So the drivers will come and collect the workers. We will decide what work they're going to do, who are going to be planting cotton seeds, who are going to go where to plant onions, whatever. But you know, Prospect was the area, and that area where the propagation is now done was the main area where all of agriculture was. So that building that's over where we are, the blueprint for that building was supposed to be the renovated building of that building, which is over at Prospect. It was supposed to be that, the first floor, and then go up one floor. But somehow, I think someone said a prefab building was brought in, and so that's why it was placed over there. But the original intent was to have it on that space, exactly where that big building that orients from east to west is in the propagation site. So I worked there, and I was moved from there, I was transferred from there, and became the extension officer for the area from Hermitage to Eden Brown. So and during that period, and in 1986, I was extension officer of excellence under the Caribbean Agricultural Extension Program, and so I went to Trinidad as my prize, and then after that, I think several divisions, including the Minister Evelyn, Stephen Jones, and some of the others officers, were chosen as extension officer of excellence. But that was also for not only Nevis, but Nevis and St. Kitts at the time. So I was extension officer of excellence for St. Kitts and Nevis. So it was really exciting time for me. And it was in 1985 that we had the first Agri-Expo, and that was held at Market Shop, the Common in Market Shop. We asked government for permission that cars can only drive through, and we sold, and up to Crony Old Manor. We used that area, and we had farmers from my whole extension area, from the cotton farmers from Hanley's Road, vegetable farmers from the river, and we had the first block up in the, and then we had like an exhibition up in what it was called the Crony building, and and from that it evolved into becoming a more island-wide activity. But the first one of that was done there in Gingerland, and we have the book to show it, where there's a picture of the outline of Nevis, and it was a fascinating experience. I left indicating that when I came back, I wanted to transform marketing in agricultural produce. So when I returned in 1991, Mr. Merchant had just returned from studies, and I came back. I started working on the 1st of June in 1991, and I was the marketing officer, and I was able to get funding for constructing what was later called the marketing unit, the first of that, and the whole market. Upgraded the market. At that time, when I came back, persons were killing animals everywhere, and we decided, nah, we stopped doing that. So what we did, there was, at that time we had Sidney Newton was the livestock officer, and so we had two organizations formed. On the livestock side, we had the Nevis Livestock Cooperative, NELIFCOF, and on the crop farmers side, we had the Nevis Growers. And what the Nevis Growers did, with the assistance of persons like Mr. Sherman Weeks and other persons who were there, I think Mr. Powell, and we got into having that arrangement with Four Seasons, where we were concentrating on a few crops. And what we will do, we'll have an orderly arrangement with people who signed on, who wanted to be a part of the program. And what we will do, because I'd come back from America and I'd seen, the forecasting benefit, I mean, we did a lot of forecasting and data collection. And so what would happen is that I will work with the extension officers, and we will go out and we will get the acreages that they have, and we will have discussion with them. We have method demonstration on their plots so as to show them what we're trying to achieve. And then when the results came, we didn't have to do anything because they were excited that then they were now producing a certain quality product. And so they were happy to be a part of it. And we can tell you that, you know, we had a lot of people who were a part of it. And so by the time that I left in 1996 to travel abroad to go to the FAO to work, you had a situation where we were able to leave an account of over $115,000, you know, with in terms of cash, and we had over $100,000 worth of material, whether it be pipe, drip irrigation, posts, fencing wire, and that sort of thing. Over time, we've seen the innovation, which is one of the things that you speak to here, come of age, and we're happy to have been a part of that. The first innovation that we were a part of was moving from sprinkler irrigation to drip irrigation. So around 1991, Sherman Weeks of Cardi then and the other persons who were working here, they had gotten some plain line drip emitters and push in thumb push T emitters. But the thing about that is that wherever there was a slope, wherever it's higher, there's less water, and wherever it's lower. So, I mean, having come back from the United States, I spoke to the people at Jamaica Drip Irrigation, and there was this drip irrigation that we can say how far apart we want the emitters, whether 12 inches for onions, 18 inches for vegetables, 24 inches. And with those sorts of things, we got into using that technology. And then we also started using injection of nutrients into the irrigation process by using the Venturi system, which does not require any kind of fossil fuel or anything, just the natural pressure of the water system. So it's been an interesting, innovative ride when we did that, and then we got farmers to work with each other in cooperatives. That's another innovation, because at the marketing unit we bought a lot of items in bulk, and we realized that's the best way you can help farmers. If you procure the inputs in bulk and then it's cheap. Farmers, by their nature, they do not want to sell together, because if they sell together, you know, they would feel like one person has a better product, so they want to be able to sell for what they can get the most from it. So that being the case, that was the only part of that. But I became the marketing officer, and for 5 years we kept all the records of persons who were selling stuff to Four Seasons Hotel, and at that time we were the throughput place for poultry. And that time we had a gentleman named Mr. Tyson and a few others, and they were the ones who were selling eggs, and we were the ones who negotiated to have the farmers decide how much eggs get into the country, and the farmers sold to the supermarkets because they were the egg producers. So that was that area. And Mr. Newton and the other guys, they had the livestock, the lift cup. And then at that time, we were just coming out on the back end of dermatophilosis, and people were now rebuilding their stocks. And so we were selling a lot of meat, but we wanted to be able to sell to the guests. And so what we did is that we transformed the public market. Those days, people used to cut up the meat on a piece of electric pole. You know, you just take a piece of the electric pole and chop on it because it's hard. and then all you do is just scrape it off, and the next week, and then so that bloody look thing, you plant on it, you cut on it again. And when we came, we decided, no, we want to transform that. So what we did is that we decided, no, we're going to work with the law that says that an animal must be kept in layerage, and for two purposes. One was for health, and the other one was for security from stealing. So you must bring the animal to prospect and have it stay there for 2 days, and then it is slaughtered. And so if you stole it from someone, the person can come and do that. Because before that, what would happen is you could steal somebody's animal, you can kill it in the field, and the meat, once it's already de-skinned, you wouldn't know that it's yours, and there's no way of making the claim. So having done that, we had that sort of situation. And then we had a van, and we started doing cuts, specialized cuts, and then we will take the meat in the van. Each individual will come, have their meats inspected and chilled, and then you take it in cuts, and then they were better opportunities because all of the broken bones were not in, it was sharp cuts, and so people can, cut that. And then there was a white van we had that took the livestock products to Four Seasons and to the Gingerland market on a Saturday morning, for distribution, and came down to like about 5:30, 6 o'clock to the Charlestown public market for the butchers to have their meat, to sell. But it was all nicely cut after 1991. Well, Nevis Hydro Gardens, we say that we have over 120 different crop species of vegetables and fruits and herbs. And we grow it in open field. We grow on trellis, passion fruit, and bora, cherry tomatoes. We grow those on trellis. And then we have hydroponics. And the hydroponics, like I said, started in 1998, and we've continued. We went down a bit after a period of time, but we are back, and we have just expanded by putting up another. So we have two facilities, a 3,000 square feet facility and a 4,200 square feet facility. And what they do is that they allow us to produce in a sequential manner, knowing that it takes 42 days from seed to stomach. So the individual will have to do the preparation and know how much to plant, whether it is weekly, fortnightly, or monthly, in order to meet the market requirements. Because in any market, what the people are interested in is, first, they want to be able to have a price that they can afford, but they want you to be consistent in your quality and your quantities. They do not want you to have something this week and then next week you give them an explanation. What people want is the product. They don't want explanation, they want solution. So that's what we do here. We have been trying to make sure that we preserve some of the biodiversity. So we have a few choice things. We have macadamia, we have mansiport, we have shaddock, we have different types of coconut, we have different types of mango. And we grow vegetables. We have pineapple. We have lots of guava. I think we have probably one of the largest guava pure stands in Nevis. We're going up there with pineapples as well. And what we do, we believe in leading by example. So what we are trying to do is to create this microclimate with these fruit trees. Minimize the wind speed, minimize the amount of water that can be evaporated, and then in between them we can plant vegetables, and we've seen better results when it comes to that. I think it's fitting your theme about innovation and sustainability. I've made an effort, one, to innovate, to take things from just fork and hoe when my father used to do it, and have some very sophisticated stuff, including sensor and including, measure meters for different nutrients and pH and all that sort of thing that I use here on the farm, as well as transforming to, hydroponics from basic hand watering. patrons like it because I offer an experience where they can come and pick up things here. The price is, it's written there, so I don't change the price, whether there's plenty or whether there's little. My price is the price all year round. So they like that transparency. The patrons also like it because, you know, they talk about a vine-ripened tomato. They can come and I can either go and pick it for them, or some persons who I deem, you know, responsible enough, I have them pick the items that they need, and then we wait and then we price it. So I've had very favorable response, and they come, they can see the kind of chemicals that I use, you know, the mounds of manure, well-rotted manure that I have, and that sort of thing. And they can see my practices, my cultural practices. You know, I put things out, let them dry, and then, you know, I use some of that for mulching and other practices. What would I say to someone if they wanted to come into agriculture? And I would say to the person, no one can encourage you to come into agriculture. This thing is sacrificial. This is serious business. There are people who have what I call the grudge mentality. They feel like if Arthurton can make some money out of that, I can go into that because I got some money. But you see, the difference between the person who has the money and that grudge mentality is they do not have a long-term motivation. So whenever the going gets rough, that person is going to leave. And you can rest assured that that tenure in farming is not going to be long. It's going to be as long as their opportunity to make money from the perceived part. But when you have protracted drought and an increase in diseases, or you may have harvested 600 pounds of tomato, but 400 pounds, you have the mango bird just come and chip each one of them. Because I've had that experience, and that is probably the most painful experience. Or you may have guava trees and you have your biggest guava, and then the bats come and they just eat the outer portions of the biggest guavas. And I mean, you can't do anything about it because they come in, the bats come in the night. And they have sensors, the food sensors, they can come and they can do that. So there are these kinds of issues that I think, but I think that farming can be attractive and encouraging to younger folks if the technology side of it, the innovation side. And I think that's probably one of the reasons that you suggested that you came to me, because you would have seen, I mean, a whole lot of technologies that I apply to this farming operation. And, you know, I'm very proud of that. And I have a lot of children, young people come here. Over the last 6 weeks, we have had people from the Nevis Academy, and we have had people from Gingerland, and we have had CFB, Clarence Fitzroy Bryant, and we have had the consortium from St. Kitts, and we have had people from St. Martin, Anguilla, Four Seasons, you know, all the hotels. The people have come here. They have done pieces here for Ministry of Tourism, Ministry of Education. When they're doing their SBAs annually, the children come here. Some come individually, some come as a class. So I'm very happy to do that, because if one or two of them get serious and decide that, listen, this is what I love, and I'm going to take this up, I think my job would have been done. Because that is the most important thing, for there to be that relay, the baton, someone comes and take it. Because I'm looking and see the average age of serious persons in farming, you know, it's getting up there again. If I can brighten the corner where I am and other people can see, you know, my intention. It's the power of intention. It's my intention to be the best I can be for Nevis, to be the best I can be for agriculture, to be the best I can be for food security. I take no prisoners. I do not need special friends for that. I will put whatever I have, and I've continued to do that. That is what I do. I'll continue to support the efforts and initiatives of agriculture. And so I would not do anything more than be happy to participate in this process, because who knows, I might just encourage one person, notwithstanding the challenges that they may face, to understand that, you have to be the bigger person in all of this and see country above self. I am Daniel Arthurton, and I am the patron for this year's Agriculture Expo.